In this video, we're going to talk about offering referrals. When a client or prospect contacts you about a potential voiceover job, then as voiceover artists, it's incredibly tempting to jump in with all of the details. What's their budget? What's the usage? What's the turnover time? And we don't sometimes stop and ask ourselves, are we the right person for the job? We just assume that we must be because the client has contacted us. Instead, I want to encourage you to get into the habit to really be honest with yourself about whether or not you are right for the job, and if you're not right for the job, or if you have any uncertainty in that, to get into the habit of offering referrals to other voiceover artists instead of trying to wing it and do it yourself. And there are a number of reasons for this, which I'm just going to go into in a second, but just to give you an idea of how often I do this, I'd say I refer clients to other voiceover artists on average 2 to 3 times a week. So here are my top 5 reasons why you should start doing voiceover referrals. The first is quite straightforward, really. If you refer a client to someone which has a more appropriate skill set, then you're framing yourself as being client-centric and focusing on solving their problems as opposed to solving your own, i.e. needing voiceover work because you have bills to pay. If you're putting yourself forward first and foremost as a priority, then you're not being client-centric. It doesn't come across as you having their best interests at heart, which is not what we want for our business. For our business, it's all about creating that relationship, creating that trust, creating that loyalty, and the best way of one of the best ways of doing that, apart from offering sterling work, is to be able to go, in my level of expertise, I'm not the right person for this job, but I know 3 or 4 perfect examples who are. Secondly, rather obviously, it avoids disappointment and awkwardness. If you attempt something that isn't in your skill set, and then what you end up offering to the client is something substandard. You want to be associating yourself with quality all the way through. And I'm not talking about not taking risks in terms of your interpretation of a script or a text or being able to be challenging, pushing at the envelopes at times with what your skill set can offer. It's only by stretching and pushing further that we can grow. However, when a client is coming to you for a solution, that is probably not the best opportunity for us to stretch ourselves. I mean, I think there are caveats to that with video games and animation auditions to a certain degree, but when we're talking about commercial copy, when we're talking about corporate work especially, where time very much is money as well, you need to be very clear about what your skill set is, and if you have any uncertainties about that, by all means offer a quick read as a demonstration, but you can always frame it in terms of, I don't think that I'm quite right for this job, but here's a sample, and here are 3 or 4 other recommendations instead. My third point is that by actually offering referrals, you'll start to get a much clearer idea of what other people are offering and what trends and tastes are dominating in a particular sector. For example, if in e-learning you get a lot of e-learning clients come to you and they're looking for multi-character narrators, people who can do lots of different voices in order to demonstrate particular scenarios, but they can only afford the one voice as a result. If it's not your skill set, then obviously have some people who you know that you can refer to, but also keep that in mind. If all these e-learning clients are looking for people who can do that thing, then maybe the classes that you should be focusing on is so that you can be able to offer that to a certain degree as well, so that the next time they come to you, you can actually go, oh, actually, I can do that. Reason 4, well, referrals breed referrals. For the voiceover actors that I'm referring clients on to, they'll maybe get in contact with 1 or 2 of the people that I recommend. Generally, I try to kind of find the right balance of people that I recommend in terms of I'll try and give like 2 or 3 options, but not like a huge laundry list which may be overwhelming. And very often the client will introduce themselves to those voiceover talents that they contact by saying, oh, by the way, Chris Tester recommended that I get in touch, here's the project, etc., etc., etc. And what that means is that organically, people will know that I'm referring them, and as a result, they may be more minded to refer me. I mean, you want to approach it from a very holistic point of view without any kind of expectation of referrals, but by the same token, by coming at it from a position of being relatively selfless and being honest in your assessment of your skill set and also your assessment and appreciation of other people's skill set, then it does become a symbiotic relationship. For whatever reason, voiceover artists tend to be a lot more supportive and open to the whole idea of referrals than an actor ever would, because all actors think that they're incredibly transformative and can do everything. I'm massively oversimplifying, and that's definitely not the case, but there's definitely a mindset shift. Actors tend to not give referrals to other actors in quite the same way, but with voiceovers, maybe it's because we talk to ourselves all of the time, it's much more common practice, and you should be a part of that. And finally, 5, a reason for offering referrals is that it creates the space for you to be able to ask for referrals further down the line. One of the great marketing tips that I was given when I first started out was that as soon as you actually had a good working relationship with a client or even with a prospect, that you could ask them if they knew of anybody else that might be able to use your voice in some kind of way, essentially asking them for a referral. Now, especially being British, I can be very awkward about going directly out and asking that. So being able to offer referrals first has been my kind of gateway of a further, couple of interactions down the line going, oh, by the way, I'm just doing some marketing, or I've just made a new demo or something. Could you recommend anybody else who you think might be interested in my voice, in my services, all of these kind of things. By having already established yourself as someone who is client-centric as opposed to you-centric, who is thinking very openly as being a service provider of recommendations as well. You place yourself in such a way that it's so much easier to refer you to their other contacts as opposed to a bullet-headed voiceover artist who just wants to book as many jobs as possible. So I hope that's convinced you about some of the benefits of offering referrals. Thank you so much for watching as ever. Please do like, subscribe, spread the word, and I look forward to seeing you next week.